Good morning again from NetApp Insight. We are here to record Tech Unplugged live, and I am with Pete Fletcha from VMware.
Hey Enrico, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much for being here with us. So, let us know a little bit about you and what you do in VMware.
Sure. Well, I'm here at NetApp Insight because not only am I a huge fan of NetApp, I actually worked at NetApp for 4 years. I was one of the VMware experts at NetApp in technical marketing.
Good.
I also worked on the podcast at NetApp, the Tech on Tap podcast. I was a host on that for a while. So NetApp is definitely like my extended family. I've been over at VMware now for a year, working in the storage and availability business unit, focusing on working with storage vendors on VMware. So.
Okay, that's good. So, we know VMware vSphere 6.5
yes.
finally available,
yes.
right? So can you talk a little bit about the new features, what we can find in this new release?
Absolutely. Well, of course, always the best way to get the information, I think, is through the internet. Go online, you can Google vSphere 6.5, you're going to find the introduction page that'll give you much more detail. There's also, I also host a podcast at VMware called vSpeaking Podcast.
vSpeaking Podcast, okay.
Yeah, and so we're doing a month-long series on vSphere 6.5 that talks about, we bring in all the experts to talk about in detail all of the different aspects, all the different features in 6.5, but we can cover a couple of them here if you don't mind.
Yep.
So for one, we now have the vSphere security enhancements have been significant. There's now VM encryption. There's also VM secure boot. There's a whole section for now enabling secure boot on our hosts. But another really good one is logging. Logging traditionally is pretty boring, and the logging in vSphere in the past has not been very informative. You make a change to a virtual machine, it basically says, a configuration change has been made. Doesn't really help you, right?
Yeah.
And so the new version of logging, they're calling it actionable logging, which means instead of just saying, hey, something happened, it now says, hey, Enrico made this very specific change, and so you can use these changes, and I think people are going to really be able to do more with this logging in terms of troubleshooting, but also, being a lot more secure. So in terms of security, lots of great enhancements with vSphere 6.5. But more than that, some of the features that people love about vSphere, like HA and DRS, have made significant improvements as well.
I know
like
about that.
HA, for example, if you wanted to do any type of booting before priority, there were 3 categories: high, medium, and low. So if a VM failed over, you basically had a choice to give them 3 categories. Now, not only are there 3, there's 5 categories, but we also have the ability to do, VM boot preference, right? So dependencies. If a VM needs to fail over, we can say this VM needs to power up first before this one. So a little bit more granular options for configuring your failover. In terms of DRS, they now have things like proactive DRS. So if it now can tell that you're going to have some contentions in performance in your host, it can proactively move workloads for you. So a couple of really cool things around vSphere in general. One that I'm more excited about myself is vVols, right? So virtual volumes.
Nice,
Yeah, Viva las vVols. So that's what I'm here about, talking at NetApp Insight, talking about how VMware and NetApp has been working for a while on support for virtual volumes. So we're going to be talking about doing that on clustered data ONTAP. And just actually today is the very first day since ONTAP 9.1, release candidate 1 was released. They will be certifying that for virtual volumes. That's been a big question.
Yeah, and also it's huge for NetApp customers because they are talking about this for a while now.
Yeah, and even in the field, like NetApp customers, they talk to NetApp employees, and sometimes because they're only certified on 8.3, there was this rumor almost of, are they going to support it on 9? Are they going to keep moving forward? And we knew the answer was yes, but we weren't allowed to say anything. And so we're finally happy to say that officially that NetApp is supporting virtual volumes on release on 9.1, which is really exciting.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting now, all the NetApp products, right? SolidFire and FAS are both on vVols.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, SolidFire has a totally different vVol implementation. It's amazing, it's great. NetApp was one of the early contributors to the vVol program, and early days, when you're the first one to the market, you're the first one to start to learn and learn how to not do it, right? You make mistakes and things happen. So the very first version of NetApp's vVol had some very, it wasn't stable. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't stable, but it was so early. They have completely redone it for 8.3. So the VSC and the VASA Provider 6.2 is amazing. I mean, it's fast, it's dependable, it's highly available. The VASA Provider is stateless, which means that even if you lose it, you don't lose any data. And there's disaster recovery options that are built in. They even put in some commandlets so you can automate the process of restoring your VASA provider if in the event that it did fail. So it's pretty robust now, and we're pretty excited to talk about it.
Sounds great. So you wrote down storagehub.vmware.com
Yes.
on the whiteboard, so I think this is the first place where we can look about this.
Yeah, so that's a new website that we put together, the technical marketing guys, and so if you want to learn more about VMware storage, whether it's virtual SAN, whether it's virtual volumes, whether it's even just vSphere, if you go to storagehub.vmware.com, there's a lot of information out there that me and my peers have been working on to share with people about all these great technologies.
Tell me one more time about your podcast.
Yeah. It's vspeakingpodcast.com, and what we do is we bring in the experts, not just VMware experts, we bring in experts from everywhere, like in any technology, and we spend about 30 minutes to 45 minutes talking to people about what's new. We talk about vSphere, we talk about ONTAP 9, we had a whole coverage on NetApp Insight, we had Dave Hitz on, as well as Dave Wright. It's a lot of fun, and so it's a lot of fun to have the podcast. So if anyone out there listens to the podcast, thank you for listening, and email us at podcast@vmware.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you very much again.
Yeah, man, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, take care.